What's up, man? And it's February 2026. Just trying to get it. Anyway, I think today was the first day that you can apply for school vouchers in Texas. So, that's something that we should really be paying attention to. I think it's a step in the right direction. Our system is just horrible. And it's crazy when I see people advocating for public schools. If an enterprise was, if it failed to deliver on a product, then it's only right that that enterprise should no longer be. It should go out of business because it didn't fulfill the market need, right? But it's funny, like when it's government, the solution is always give it more money. And that's why, there's always a divide. Because people just don't understand economics. When you have an economy, you have to produce. That's the bottom line. You don't make money if you don't have production. But I just don't think that people understand that concept. And as far as school goes and school system or just anything, you don't appreciate a product that you don't have to pay for. And most people are just like that. So you take the school system, and the school system can work. It can work. It's gonna take hard work, but it can work for you. But most people just don't value it. And to be honest, I don't think a lot of people should be in school. A lot of people need to drop out of school and just get a job. Be productive, because they're not gonna do anything with the schooling that they have. They're just you're keeping them in school, you're keeping them miserable, and they're making the other students that actually want to be there and actually use the knowledge, you're making them miserable too. You're holding everybody back by forcing everybody to be in school. So I think that that really needs to be looked at. We have an underskilled population. We have an untrained population, and I believe we can train people, but we're outsourcing that to other countries, to foreign nationals. That's what the whole H-1B stuff is. I don't think it's right. I'm not saying to not get the best and the brightest, but they're not even giving us a chance. I think that's wrong. And I think that people need to be held accountable. What's the point of being an American citizen when we don't even have privileges? We don't have preference. What's the point? Anyway, so I was teaching economics just a minute ago, and we were talking about supply, demand, and we were talking about quantity supplied and price in a market. So you got to think like a producer, and that's the problem. A lot of people think like consumers, so that's all they do. They spend money, so they don't make it. So you got to think like a producer. So when you have a business, you're looking at the price. You're looking at the price of goods on a market, right? So the cost is going to determine what you supply. So if the cost of something increases, then you need to acquire more of that product, or you're gonna acquire a higher quantity of that product. Why is that? Because there's a profit motive. That's the reason. You're in business to make money. That is the reason. There may be like some kind of emotional reason. I want to serve people. That's cool and all, because that's really why we do the things we do, because emotion, passion moves the world. But as far as like the business goes, you do it to make money, so you're gonna acquire more of it. Now if the price goes down, you're going to have less of it. You know, so now you got to ask yourself, okay, what is going to affect the supply? You know, so you have non-price determinants, right? So things like I don't know, you got market speculation, you got expectations. So if you expect the price of something to go up, you're gonna get more of it and sit on it until the price goes up. Okay, so that's speculation and whatnot. And then you have like taxation, right? So if the taxes go down, because taxes are an expense, it impedes your ability to acquire. So if the taxes go down, then you're gonna acquire more of those goods, right? Okay, so yeah, that's how business works, just in a nutshell. I know there's other things that affect it. So then you gotta actually think like a consumer as well. So now you got supply and demand, right? So you gotta think like, what is the market demanding? So whatever the market demands, as a business, you're gonna supply more of it, because that's what's gonna yield you profit. The demand, you have the supply, and the demand, people will buy it, right? Okay, so what drives demand? Two things: desire for a product and your ability to pay for that product. So premium goods, they usually have a certain market, right? Premium good have a certain market, so people that have a high income can afford it. So I was talking to a guy yesterday. He was a tattoo artist, and he said that he doesn't feel great enough to charge people a premium price. And I said, but are you good enough? He said, yeah. I said, well, you're gonna keep yourself poor by marketing and selling to poor people, because poor people don't understand value. So if you don't market to the right people, you are going to sit on product. But if you don't have the right product for the market, then you're still going to sit on product. So how do you move the product, right? So you got to make it more valuable. That's one. Or you can lower the price. That's how you move it. You lower the price, then the demand is gonna go up, right? But you don't want to really do that. You don't really want to do that. It's like it hurts your pride as a producer. So now you have something called inelastic demand. You have inelastic demand and elastic demand. So elastic demand is when you can see a big change or a great change in the demand of something because of a price change, right? So if the price of the price of Nikes go up, then a lot of people are not gonna demand it anymore. They're just gonna get something else. Whereas you have inelastic demand, where the demand will not change a lot due to the price. So these are things that people actually need, like food and water and shelter and all that stuff like that, basic clothing. Those demands are not going to change. You need those things. All right. So as an enterprise or enterprising individual, what is it best to supply most of? Things that have an elastic demand or inelastic demand. Now remember, things that have an elastic demand, those have a higher profit margin. They have a higher profit margin because they tend to be things that people don't need. They tend to be things that people more so want. So the more money that you have, you're gonna buy more of the things you want. So I'm asking, what is it better to stock? Things that people need or things that people want? Well, I say that a successful business person is going to have a mixture of both. You're going to be able to present a product that people want very much and they need very much. You know? Because things that people need, it's not going to stay on the shelf for long, right? Because everybody needs it. Now, if you're in the market of premium goods, remember, you have to market yourself to the right, you have to be in the right market. So you have to present your product to the right market, right? And see, this is why relationships are all messed up. Because people believe they're premium goods and they're marketing to poor people. They're in the wrong market. So what do you do? If you do not lower your asking price, you are going to sit on the product, which is yourself, right? Or you can increase your perceived value by doing what? By listening to the market. What is the market demanding? But what does the market need as well? I think that when it comes to relationships, most people think like poor people. And poor people don't understand value. Poor people will not invest their money in things that are valuable. Poor people are short-term thinkers. They don't look at things long-term. So that's why you have a lot of people out here complaining about relationships, because they price themselves at a premium, but they sitting on product because they're presenting the product to poor people. And they don't want to do what it takes to increase their perceived market value. Or they don't or they don't know how to convince the poor people that they need what they have. And you know, this principle just goes across the board for everything. You know, I hate the relationship talks because we never get down to the nitty-gritty. We never get down to what really matters. It's just a bunch of big-ass grown kids just nagging and bitching about stuff that doesn't matter. You got a bunch of whores and whoremongers complaining that whores won't be ladies and these whoremongers won't be gentlemen. You got prostitutes and you got Johns. You know, the prostitutes want the Johns to treat them like ladies. And they want the Johns to be an honorable, upstanding man. Like, it's like you're in the wrong market. You just are. You know, the Johns are, you know, I don't know, man. I don't consume content that just feeds all that nonsense. Like, it's very just low vibrational. I call it low vibrational nigga shit. That's what I call it. And I'm sick of watching it. So I don't watch it. In fact, I block it. When I see all these dudes that are giving women bad advice, that are convincing women that are in poverty-stricken markets to raise their market value or to raise their asking price, I'm just like, you're giving them the wrong advice. You need to tell them to go to another market if they're really a premium good. That's what you should be telling them. The same with the men. You know, you got all these red pill dudes that are, you know, they're destroying men. They're destroying men further. Because the thing that all men want is a woman. You know, you can say, oh, well, you know, you can say, well, we're in the gym, we're working on ourselves, we're on our purpose. You can say all that bullshit. But at the end of the day, you want a woman. And these red pill guys are convincing men, young men, to not want a woman. that's a miserable lifestyle. That's a miserable existence. Like, if every woman, if I was watching that funny dude, Daryl Vega, and he did a clip saying somebody asked him if an apocalypse killed all the women, what would you do? He was like, well, the apocalypse need to kill all the men too. And I mean, I agree. I would not want to live in a world without women. I don't want to have an existence without women. I don't. Like, you can have it if you want to, but not me. So these red pill dudes are misleading the young men, and these bullshit ass hustler dudes talking about, send a woman $1,500 right now, just because, nigga, you send her $1,500 and I'll take her on a date and she'll pay for me. You know what I'm saying? You can do that. You can trick off. I'm not gonna do that. You're selling women a fantasy that does not exist. Anyway, that is the last relationship video I'm gonna talk about. This is the last relationship topic I'm gonna talk about in a long time. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear about it. I'm tired of everybody crying and not getting to the nitty-gritty. I'm tired of it. Alright? Anyways, man, I'll holler at y'all.